Hi, welcome to another video, and today we're going to be looking at the Bondtech Extruder, but this is one that's just come out. This is the Bondtech Extruder for the Prusa Mini, and it has an integrated or internal filament sensor. So rather than the one that you have with the Prusa Mini as an optional extra, which is normally attached to the end of the filament tube, there is now the opportunity to put that filament sensor inside an enhanced Bondtech Extruder body. As you can see, I've got Tukkari enclosure here, and the filament sensor, which is probably about this long, 2 or 3 inches, it just doesn't really work. It just gets in the way. So having the filament sensor internal to the extruder, I think, is a good solution, and one I'm looking to actually try out. Now, there's 2 versions. One is the upgrade kit if you've already got a Bondtech extruder. The other is the full body. If you want to know how to remove an extruder or the original Prusa Mini extruder, please see the link below in the description. I've got a video for that, how to remove that and put the original Bondtech on, so you can use a lot of that just on instructions how to actually remove the extruder. So the next step is I'm going to be taking the Mini out, and we'll take the Bondtech extruder off, and then we'll go step by step. But like I say, if you don't have a Bondtech extruder already, don't worry, this video will still apply, because we're going to be stripping down the parts from the filament sensor that I have and putting it in here. And that's the first thing I need to do, is to remove the cable ties. Just carefully snip them off. There, just take them out. Hopefully we can move the extruder out of the way a little bit. There we go, 3 cable ties. That's out of the way. I'm also going to undo this, which I think is going to try and undo everything, which I don't really want. So if in doubt, we will use a second spanner. There we go, that's broken the lock, so that can just simply undo. So that's that part. As you can see here, I have actually been using the filament sensor at one time and not in the enclosure, so it's actually all rigged up. As I say, if you buy the upgrade, you do need a filament sensor already. If you don't, then you need the full set. So but these instructions are valid for both, because even in the full one, you will use the same parts. Right, 1 extruder removed. Carefully put screws to one side, big screw and a small one, and then we have some screws to undo here, just 3. One. Oh, not there. Number 2, almost out. Number 2, and 1 there by the looks of it. Number 3. The motor is now free. Put that down carefully. There we have the extruder. Just undo the screw, that part can stay intact. We need to release the PTFE tube, so press it in and pull, and it just pulls out just like that, but you do have to press it in to release. Now this one is actually going to come out, it's only finger tight in, so we're reusing all of these parts. So this is the tricky one to get out for me. Actually I can do it with my nails. Pull that out. And this one, I believe, has to be jiggled out a little bit. There we go. And I need to wiggle out the bearing, so I'm going to possibly use, let's have a look, see what I've got. Perhaps some long nose pliers I can do very carefully. Yeah, there we go. Without putting too much pressure on it. So basically replacing one part for another. As you can see, you've got the difference there. Right, that's the first step done. Now the next step, now that we've got the spur gear in, it was a little bit fiddly. I had to put the bearing in on its own and just use the Allen key to push it down. It was gentle then, but then wiggling the spur gear quite a lot just to get it to line up. So that's all in. So we've got the tensioner here, just pops in the hole there, and there we go, that's all ready. So the next step, the little bit of PTFE tube goes in there, and press it down as far as it will go. I think that is pretty good. Then we have the brass fitting. It's a coarse end that goes in, but don't cross thread it. That's the one thing. Sometimes it helps to put it in backwards to begin with, undoing it and then doing it up. And just make sure, looking around all the way around, that it is lined up correctly. And then I'm going to pop it in with a spanner because it's quite tight. Right up to the shoulder. There we go. The next option is to start taking apart the filament sensor. This one's taking a little bit of time to come out. Okay, so we've got a ball there, a couple of magnets. So carefully take that out. Carefully ease out one item there. A ball bearing. Don't lose it. And we've got another magnet there, which I shall prise out. And it looks like we need a very tiny Allen key, which I shall acquire to take out this circuit board. A really small one. Must be a 1.5. Back in a moment. So I've got a 1.5 Allen key, so we can just take this out. There we go. And I believe this should be able to just jiggle this out a little bit. Might be a little bit tight. Okay, so yeah, it is a little bit tight there, but once you realise there's a cable behind, the circuit board will come out initially, and then you're just left with a cable and you can wiggle it to get it out. And now you're thinking, how do I get that magnet out of there? Use the existing one. And I believe we should. So the way to get the magnets, the last final magnet out, if that magnet is inside, should be to use the other magnet and use the attraction and to pull it out. Unfortunately on mine the magnet was pushed in so deep and it was really tight that I've had to actually cut it away, so I'm not going to be able to use this filament sensor should I want to revert back. So there we have two magnets. Next we have the little bag that came with the Bondtech Extruder. It's got some replacement tie wraps and it's got two items here that will house the magnets. So we're going to deal with those next. Okay, so the next part, we've got these two pieces of plastic supplied by Bondtech. Pop one of the magnets in one side. Get the second magnet, allow it to attract, slide it off, turn it upside down. Have this other piece this way up. We're going to slot the magnet in and push it all the way home, nice and smooth. So these two should now repel, but I'm going to put my finger over this magnet just in case it tries to fall out. And oh yes, I was actually trying to push the magnet out. I can feel it. So that's the correct orientation. As you can see, it's flown straight out. So we better make sure it's actually the right way now. Yeah, still got that repelling action. I'm going to keep these two far apart. The next step is to remove this plastic plug. Now you can try with the screwdriver. And what I found was handy was to then use some pliers to carefully remove it. Put that to one side. And this is where the ball bearing goes. So the ball bearing we removed earlier, but as we're using the upgrade, we're cannibalising the original filament sensor. Right, now we have this part that we took earlier. Going to pop that there and reuse one of the screws that came off of the filament sensor. See if we can keep that on. And that's going to go down the body. Let's pop it in this way, this will be a little bit easier. Okay, and it should then be able to be screwed in. Right, I think we nearly got it. Yeah, we got it now. So that's in. There's a little neat trick to do on the next part of this. The trick on this part is apparently to push this end down so the lever here is up, then tighten. Okay, so that is tightened, this part is up. Then you just gradually undo it, very gradually, until it falls. There we go. So that has now fallen. So that's just enough movement. Then we pop this one in, and that will get screwed. So I have the other screw here. Let's screw that in. Now that we have the magnets in, it's time for a little circuit board. So this has been pulled straight off of the existing filament sensor. So we're just going to pop that in face down, and this is the tiny screw that was holding it in before, with the 1.5mm Allen key. And let's pop that in. There we go. It took a little bit of time to bite. I need to make sure that it goes in flush. So there we go. And just make sure that the arm still moves, because it goes into a slot in a component on the circuit board. There we go. Now, when I took the circuit board off, the flat base was equal to where the circuit board was. Now, the way this fits, it's the other way around. So, the way Bondtech have got it, if I'm turning this around, I need to swap the positive and the negative around, which is quite easy. So, you just need a very narrow screwdriver. Press in a little bit, and voila. I'm going to keep that over that side. What I'm going to do beforehand, you just need to take the little barb that's there, which I've literally just pressed down, and just move it slightly up, not too much. So that's that. I'm going to do the same with the red, just pop it down. Sometimes you have to give it a few goes. Let's have a look. Yeah. Let's try it again. There we go. That one's out. While that one's out, I'm going to put this one in so I don't get them mixed up. Have it in the correct orientation so that the barb is sticking up, because it's going to go in that tiny hole. So push that in, and I've just heard it click. So on the red wire, we're just going to move that barb up a little bit, get it to stick up slightly more, and then push the red wire in. Until it goes all the way and can't come out. Same with the black wire, give them a bit of a tug so they can't come out. Now that means this connection can go effectively the wrong way around. There we go. That's how it slides in. Okay, so we've got the circuit board in. We just need to put these wires in this groove, which we can do here. And once that's done, we can then look to add the stepper motor back on. There we go. That's the orientation it should be at, as it was originally. And let's find some screws. And get an Allen key to pop them through. Looks like that was taken. Just do it loosely for now. In fact, let's just double check just to see if they are all the same size. Yes, they are. And one more there. That's the 3. Let's do those up a little bit more. All right, next step, putting the extruder on. One thing we need to do, if you've bought the full kit, you'll have to wire the filament sensor into the circuit board. Those instructions are available with the Prusa Mini on exactly where it should go. As I've already got this wired in, I'm just going to take this sheathing off and wire it into the main sheathing here, so we don't have 2 cables. Firstly, I'm going to undo these restraining bolts here, just so that I can, just the one, so that it slackens it off a bit, and then I will loosen these off. So I've undone the top. I've started to pull the sheathing away on the existing filament sensor, as you will have to wire in the sensor into the appropriate place as indicated. Now I'm going to use the main cable here, and I'm going to gradually splice this in all the way up to this point here. So I'll just take a second to start that off. So the cable's in. I've just bolted the top down. Our next step is to pop the extruder back. So we have a small bolt there at the top. And a larger bolt at the bottom. Get that to go in. There we go. Tighten those up a little bit, but not too much. And we have the tensioner to go in. I believe has to go in all the way, if I remember correctly, until it's completely tight, and then they say, I think 4.5. How many times did I do that? I think it's supposed to be 4.5. So 1, 2, 3, 4.5. We'll see. and the bowden tube. Let's get a couple of spanners. So we need to go one to hold the base, otherwise we could strip things. Let's move the extruder out of the way, and another one there. I think that's pretty tight, it's not going to undo itself. Right, the next thing is to pop the cable onto there. I think we're all okay here. Looks pretty okay. So we need to raise by hand, just rolling the worm screw so that the extruder goes all the way to the top of the tower. Takes a few seconds to do. Almost there. And I think we'll just rearrange the camera. There we go. And we are to the top. And push the extruder all the way to the end. And then we can start to look at the cable. Right, so we've got in the little bag that came with the Bondtech, we have some ties. They've included 4, which is quite nice, but I think we only need 3. So I'm going to pop them in. I believe they have to go ideally that way in. 2. And there is a third one at the bottom, which I could hardly see. Just down there. Okay. So I think that's reasonable. Yeah. So I'm going to put those in. Do it loosely to start with. Get them in. At least if you make a mistake and have them the wrong way around, you do have a spare. Right, I think that's, don't think that's going to be tugging, and there's plenty of room for the arm, and it's not going to get too much tension. So let's tighten all those up, nice and tight, and then I'm just going to clip them off. One, 2, 3. There we go. One of the final steps is just inserting or reinserting the PTFE tube. And I think that's done. If you've not had a filament sensor before, then you may need to activate it in the settings. Go to settings and filament sensor, and just make sure that that does say on. If not, if it says off, then turn it to on. So there we have it, the new filament sensor integrated inside the extruder. Okay, so I've just powered it on. I haven't got the filament into the extruder yet, and it's already telling me there's an issue, which is good because there's no filament in the extruder. And I'll do that now. I'll feed some through. Right, so the filament is loaded. Let's see if you can see here. I've just got the end of the filament outside of the enclosure. So I'm going to print an item, and with luck it should stop once the filament gets to the extruder. I'll be back in a few minutes once it starts printing. Okay, so as soon as the filament got to the sensor, it said that a change filament was required and ejected the filament straight away. So the tail end didn't go through the extruder and stop it coming back, it threw it back straight away. So I'm really impressed with that. You've got the message and beeping on the printer, and while it was printing I wasn't getting any strange noises. On the Prusa Mini filament sensor, I quite often got various strange noises coming from it. That originally I thought it was only the extruder, which is why I put the Bondtech on. But later on I found out that the sensor was also making noises. So that's why I haven't used it for a while. So I'm really pleased with this one because it really is great. It's nice and quiet. Well, that's the test finished. So we've fitted the upgrade to an existing Bondtech and all went well. I was very impressed with the fact that the sensor tripped, expelled the filament. So that works 100%. It's nice and quiet, unlike the standard filament sensor, which does seem to make a bit of a noise when it's doing retractions. So now I paid full price for this. It's not a discounted item, not a freebie. I actually bought it from Bondtech. Do I think it's value for money? Yes, I do. In fact, I can now use my Tukkari enclosure with the Mini, with the filament sensor. Previously the filament sensor was just too large to be inside there to allow the filament to go up and down. So I had to resort to not using this, plus it was noisy anyway. So I'm really pleased now that I can have a filament sensor on the extruder and it will take care of any runouts. So I do think this is value for money. Yeah, that's about all I can say for this review. If you like the review and you'd like to see more reviews, I've got some very interesting items for printers coming up. Please like this video and subscribe. Subscription is very important, so if you can just go and press that button, you'll be alerted to more videos. Great, see you next time. Thank you very much.